Hey guys, welcome to episode 91 of This Week in BJJ. Today is October 14th, 2015. On today's show, one last time, we're going to talk about Respect 2. We're going to have Tyler Bishop on the show talking all about that event. We're also going to talk about the Abu Dhabi Grand Slam Los Angeles, both of these events taking place this weekend. Also, some new products by Matt Baker, and an interview and some really cool techniques by 2015 Masters World Black Belt Champion, Sarah Black. So you've heard me talking about Respect 2 the last couple weeks. This is an event taking place in St. Louis, Missouri on October 17th. It's going to be a really nice looking event. There's going to be 16 super fights, including Grippo versus Jeff Curran, Megaton Diaz versus Chris Hauser, and a bunch more. Before we say too much more about it, let's take a look at a promo clip. So I wanted to get all the information about this tournament, so I had Tyler Bishop come on the phone, and we talked all about it. Tyler is a black belt. He has a really cool blog called BudoVideos.com, and he came on the show to talk all about Respect 2. Here it is. Tyler, thanks for coming on the show today. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Respect 2. I'm super excited to be with you, Matt's side, commentating for this event. So I want to start off and ask you, why did you create Respect?
So first of all, Jake, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I think that all the things that you guys do, both broadcasting events and just providing coverage, is really important because it gives everybody that's in the process of either competing or trying to put on great shows so that people can enjoy jiu-jitsu. It gives us this outlet to be able to reach the audience that we're looking for. So thanks for having me on. And to your question, why did I create Respect? Well, I didn't create Respect. Respect is really just something that I'm passionate about, and I'm kind of the evangelist for, from the standpoint of, I'm not going to make a dime off of the entire show. In fact, if you go back and look at probably the time that I've invested in trying to help market it and do some different things, I'll probably burn my time up and resources up just trying to get this thing people excited about it. My good friend and first instructor ever, J.W. Wright, created Respect, and I think he created Respect largely because we would see these large jiu-jitsu events, or we'd go to the World Championship, and everybody has ideas, whether it's us here in the Midwest, people in Southern California, people in Brazil, of what jiu-jitsu should be. And I think everybody has an opinion, but it's not until somebody's really willing to do something about it and put on an event that showcases maybe something a little bit different, that gives people really that opportunity to see something that's different, rather than just talk about, well, things should be this way, or the rules should be like this, or the tournament should be set up this way, and we need to see these types of matches. Well, let's do it. And I think that embodies who JW is. He's a guy that's about action. The reason he's not on today is because he's got 1,000,000,001 things going on. He runs an academy. He's the president of TWIBJJ, which is a jiu-jitsu tournament circuit here in the United States. And he's also running Respect. And so he's a busy guy. And so I won't speak for him too much, but I know that that's a large reason why he created the event.
Okay, so you mentioned that you wanted to showcase how you guys thought BJJ should look like. What are some of those things? What should Jiu-Jitsu look like in your eyes? And is there anything unique about the tournament in terms of points or appearance?
Sure. So one of the really unique things about respect is, I think it wasn't so much about the rules and taking a stance on what jiu-jitsu should be, as much as it was trying to create an event that's exciting, an event that showcases world-class jiu-jitsu, the art of jiu-jitsu. And what I mean by that is, when you watch all these events that go on, when you watch the World Championship, what the opinion that you kept getting from people was, it's boring, it's not exciting, this is what it's not meant to be. What you want to see is the guys that have the most beautiful jiu-jitsu in the world, the most well-respected jiu-jitsu in the world, and you want to see them be able to showcase it, and you want to be able to see these battles back and forth, and you want people to ooh and ah over just the beautifulness of the jiu-jitsu. The problem is the rules really kind of prevent that to a certain extent, and it prevents it from a competitive standpoint too. A tournament in and of itself, Heuler a long time ago had said something to me that stuck with me, and it was that no one remembers the guy who got set, or no one remembers how the guy got first place. They just remember he got first place. And in a tournament, a lot of times you see these guys that have great jiu-jitsu, and they'll get first place, but they won't necessarily do it using the jiu-jitsu that that they have. And so one of the things that we wanted to do with this event was highlight some of the most well-respected people on the planet that have some of the best jiu-jitsu that maybe don't have a chance to showcase it anymore, and put them in an event where they have an opportunity all of a sudden to not have to worry about winning a tournament or conforming to a certain type of rule set, just to give them an opportunity to compete against somebody else of equal skill, so that these guys can kind of really have an equal battle. And that's really what respect is. We take guys that are instructors that are really well known inside of the community and other up-and-coming jiu-jitsu competitors, and we put them against other people that are really good competitive matchups. And what we try to do with our matchmaking and things like that is try to create these matches that people will be excited to see, but even if they're not excited to see it, or they might say, oh, I only know who one of these guys is, they watch the match in person and they're like, wow, this is a different kind of event. These guys are going for it. It's exciting. As it relates to the rules, there's 7-minute matches. There's no advantages. We don't want there to be any way that people can kind of like squeak out a win or something like that. You have to score points to win. The points are the same as they are for the IBJJF. And if it's a tie at the end, it's just a draw. Now, what's exciting about this is we had no draws on the last event. What's amazing about that is we had two guys, and I'll use them as an example because it was such an exciting match. Nick Sanders and a gentleman by the name of Sean Hammonds, who's a really well-known instructor from Nashville. He's won several things at the Masters Division. Just a great athlete, a great guy. And Nick Sanders and him were tied at the 6-minute mark. So there's a minute left, and they were in butterfly guard. At the end of the match, you could tell either one of the competitors could have stalled and taken a draw, but they both fought extremely hard. They both were very offensive, and Sean ended up getting his guard pass at the end and losing the match. Now, had that been a tournament, I talked to Sean afterwards. He said, had it been a tournament, I just would have tried to get to the next round. I probably would have stalled out or something like that. But in this case, you're trying to showcase your jiu-jitsu in front of your students, in front of your friends, in front of your fans. And it's just amazing to see the amount of effort that you get from these guys, and to the point of respect. So kind of tying this all together, what's really cool about it is, there's talk about how do you incentivize people to go for the submission? How do you incentivize action? And, I heard people talking about money for a long time. Let's pay people money to try to go for the submission or be more active. Our fighters that fight for respect, they get paid. But the bottom line is, the guys, what makes these matches so exciting is they truly are fighting for respect. That's the reason why these guys are black belts. You go to training every day, not because you're getting paid. Nobody becomes a jiu-jitsu black belt because they want to be a rich person. You do jiu-jitsu because you love it. And when you fight for respect.
Absolutely. And Tyler, I have to say, the card for Respect 2 is really exciting. You got guys like Mark Vives, who's a big name in Chicago. Got guys like Ezra Lennon, Jared Weiner, Rolly Delgado, your wife, Jenna Bishop. So many great competitors. But let's talk about the two main events. We have Megaton Diaz versus Chris Hauser and Gianni Grippo versus Jeff Curran. So first of all, Megaton versus Hauser. Tell me about the thinking behind this matchup.
Well, so originally we had a little bit of a different matchup going, and unfortunately Megaton's opponent, who was supposed to be originally Renato Tavares, had a conflict, and so he wasn't able to fill in. So we were excited about that. Hanato had been on our first card, and he has a large set of schools all around the country. And so we really liked the idea of him and then a legend like Megaton coming together. And so whenever he wasn't able to make it, we really, I know Jay was just racking his brain, who do I have fill in? And then it just kind of hit him like a ton of bricks. Megaton and Chris just made all the sense of the world, because you have these two guys that have just, if you were to think through some of the guys that are just salty, just these salty veteran guys that have been out on the scene training and competing for such a long time, those are two names that come to mind. And the first thing you think about is, I've never seen that match. You know what I mean? And when we talked to Chris and Megaton, they were both like, oh, yeah, I know Chris, or oh, yeah, I know Meg. But they'd never competed against each other. And we thought, man, what a great idea to bring these guys together for respect. They embody what we want to try to accomplish with the event, is bring together these guys, the Kurt Osianders of the world, the Megatons of the world, the Half Gracies of the world. These guys, it's so exciting for the students in the community to see these guys that maybe haven't competed in a long time, or maybe have never had a chance to compete against some of these legacy matches against each other. I couldn't be more excited about this one.
Absolutely. And, when some people think about some of the older guys in the sport, they think of really slow matches that might be on their feet the whole time. But not with Megaton and Chris. Both of these guys are in great shape. They both just competed at the Masters Worlds. They both won their division. They look amazing. So I think this is going to be a really good match. I'm excited about that one as well. Now, the main event on the card is Gianni Grippo versus Jeff Curran. Tell me about the thinking behind that one.
Yeah, so this is kind of another really great example of what we're trying to accomplish with respect. So we take a guy like Gianni, who's obviously, he's at the top of his game. He's one of the best competitors in the world in his weight class. And I don't even know that we've seen the best of him yet. He's still a really young guy. And then you take a guy like Jeff Curran, who has built a career in MMA and Jiu-Jitsu, really well respected out of Chicago, a guy that has just what I think a lot of people would call old school jiu-jitsu. And so it's this contrast of styles where you see the old school versus the new school. And get it. I get it, guys. It looks like on paper Gianni's going to come out and berimbolo Jeff Curran, but don't you think he knows that too? And what's exciting to me is the idea that, after talking to Jeff and some of these other guys that are going to be competing on the card, I'm going to be excited to see how these things play out, as these guys that have old school jiu-jitsu that know these things. It's not like they're not practicing some of these new techniques. How he chooses to address that match with Gianni in 7 minutes, because they're both going to be going for the kill. So I think it's going to be a really exciting match. And we've seen what Gianni looks like whenever he fights another, like one of the Meows or something like that. I mean, I think in Copa Podio, they fought for like an hour and a half, and they just, at the end of it, they were just like, no one's paying attention anymore. Just call it a draw, And I think that's not what people want to see. And so I think it'll be exciting to put him in a scenario where maybe he's seeing something different that he hasn't seen before. And I think everybody just wants to see what happens.
Absolutely. Can't wait for that one. And I think the logic behind that matchup was really smart, because like you said, nobody wants to see two guys berimboloing each other for an hour. But get an old school guy like Jeff, who's probably not afraid of trying to pass against Gianni, that's going to be a blast. So, Tyler, just a couple more questions before I let you go. This is the second event that you've done. Let's talk about Respect 1. Is there anything different from Respect 1 to Respect 2? Any lessons that you learned, or any modifications of the rules, or is it going to be more of the great quality action?
So, you and I had a chance to talk about Respect probably a couple months ago, and one of the things that, I had talked about was we applied a lot of lean principles to the program, because what we really wanted to create with Respect is something that is sustainable, long-term. I love the Metamorphoses of the world, and I think what Five is doing is excellent, and I support those events. Have bought every single one of both of them. The thing is I'm not sure that a sustainable model is one that has the top competitors, the biggest names, and puts them out front in every single show. I think that puts a lot of strain on the promoters. And what we'd like to be able to do is create something that's regional, that can go to Southern California, that can go to Florida, that can go to New York, that can go to Chicago, and put the top guys, the top instructors, the top people from those areas in an event that really showcases something special for the live audience. And that was the original model. And so in Respect 1, we held the event in a museum. It wasn't in somebody's academy. It wasn't in some airplane hangar out in the middle of the desert. It was inside a freaking motorcycle museum. It was awesome. And what we kept hearing from people was like, wow, this was a great event. It exceeded my expectations. And so what we wanted to do with Respect 2 really is the live broadcast, is try to can we take the same event that's this incredible experience live that we got this amazing feedback on, and can we take that to an audience that's virtual? And so that's part of the reason why we partnered with you guys at Budo Videos to do the live stream, is because we really wanted to create something that's first class. If you go to our website, one of the things that's up front is creating a world-class environment for world-class competitors for world-class jiu-jitsu. Everything that we do, we want it to be excellent. And so really, from Respect 1 to Respect 2, what we're trying to do is just bring it to more people. We created a model, and now we want to build off of it.
Excellent. Well, Tyler, thank you for being part of this. I'm happy to be part of Respect 2. Can't wait to see you guys and all the great competitors and all the live crowd there. October 17th in St. Louis. Watch online at BudoVideos.com/Respect2. And again, Tyler, thanks for being on the show. Any last comments?
No, man, thanks for having me on. And, I couldn't be more excited about it. If people are considering buying the stream to see what it's all about, I strongly encourage you to do it. I think that this event in of itself is going to be very different from everything else that people have seen that's been in live broadcast before. So I would just encourage people that may be interested, hey, give it a shot. Give it a shot.
Great. And the stream is going to be super solid. You know that because Budo Videos is behind it. And I know from looking at this fight card, the matches are going to be great too. Tyler, thanks for your time today, and I'll see you on October 17th.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jake.
So again, the Respect 2 live pay-per-view takes place on October 17th. For more information and to sign up, just go to BudoVideos.com/Respect2. Okay, the very next day, we have another event, the Abu Dhabi Grand Slam Los Angeles. This is a 4-part series. The first event was in Tokyo. This is the second one. The third one is going to be in Rio, and the last one will be in London. So this weekend, October 18th, is the Los Angeles edition. It's going to be a free live broadcast on BudoVideos.com, and take a look at some of the names on this event. Tanner Rice, James Popolo, Herber Santos, Gregor Gracie, Paulo and Joao Miao, Eduardo Telles, Elliot Kelly, Tim Spriggs, Matt Baker, Alberto Crane, Roberto Satoshi, Samir Chantry, Marcelo Mafra, Cashinho, and many more. This is going to be a stacked event, and if you want to compete, you still have maybe one more day, depending on when you're watching this, to sign up. The deadline is going to be October 15th. If you do want to sign up, go to uaejjf.org. If you want to go watch live at Zusa Pacific University, admission is totally free. And if you want to watch online, that's going to be a free broadcast as well at budovideos.com/Grand Slam. Okay, now it's time for new products. So my friend Matt Baker has a couple of really cool instructionals. The first one is on the sitting guard, which is a topic not usually covered by many instructors, and the other one is on taking the back. Now both of these were 2 DVD sets and only available on DVD. Now we have made them available on demand. So wherever you are in the world, you just log into your Budo Videos account and you can watch it right there. Really cool instructions by a great teacher, Matt Baker. Check him out. Okay, now it's time for an interview and techniques by Sarah Black. You may not have heard of Sarah Black if you don't follow too much women's competition jiu-jitsu, but she's a very qualified competitor. She's a second-degree black belt in judo and a relatively new black belt in jiu-jitsu. She's a student of Gustavo Dantas, and she won her very first time competing at black belt at the 2015 Masters Worlds. On this interview, we talk about all kinds of things, including getting injured in jiu-jitsu and judo, and a lot of differences between the training methodologies of judo and jiu-jitsu, teaching women and children also, which she does at Gustavo Dantas' Academy. And finally, in the technique portion, I think you're really going to like this. She had some really cool ways of adapting judo to jiu-jitsu. As you may know, the rule sets are different for both sports, and it takes some improvising to make those stand-up judo techniques work in jiu-jitsu. Pay particular attention to her way of setting up the Ippon Seiwanage. She blocks my hand from entering, and she makes me reach over, which gives her the entry. It'll make sense when you watch it, but it's a really cool setup, and I think you're going to like it. So here we go, Sarah Black. Sarah, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Great to see you. So before we started, you told me that you were born in California. I didn't know that. Why did you move to Arizona?
I moved to Arizona to train with Gustavo Dantas. I had trained with him in 2009, and for about 3 months, I was big into doing my judo, and I just knew that that's where I wanted to go back when I was done doing my judo, done competing. I was going to go back and train with Gustavo. Just the jiu-jitsu quality and the human being, you know, just the team he was building, the atmosphere. I just knew it was for me. It was the right place, the right fit. I've been to a lot of academies, judo and jiu-jitsu, where they have one or the other. You know, great people, so inviting, but maybe you know, technically, you know, or maybe they just don't have the training partners that you need there. And then you go some places, it's top notch, it's world's best, it's great, but maybe the people aren't for you. So just finding that right balance where you have, you know, the quality of the sport that you need, and you're just home with the people.
Yeah, and I've known Gustavo for a while, and of course he's an old school jiu-jitsu guy. You know, a lot of people know him, but I don't think he gets quite the credit he deserves for his depth of technical knowledge. You know, has a great mind for jiu-jitsu, and you don't always see it in competition. You know, being a competitor, as you know, sometimes you have to stay safe and do what you need to do to win. But Gustavo has a really nice, broad knowledge of jiu-jitsu. Is that what you find as well?
He does, because he's never stops learning. He's always learning. I mean, he doesn't. If the blue belt's doing something, he's never seen it, he'll stop them and talk about it, and he'll analyze positions, and he's always studying and bringing new things to class. So we're constantly progressing, and it's pushing us to go do the same thing. You know, and not only that, he's teaching us how to watch footage. You know, watch matches, watch it 3 times, watch it, then watch one player, then watch the other player. You know, so we're learning how to learn at the same time that we're learning. So hopefully, becoming better coaches, better players.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to talk more about Gustavo Dantas and your jiu-jitsu career, but before jiu-jitsu you were doing judo.
Right.
Judo's not that popular in America. What drove you to practice judo?
Yeah, so I managed to go through my whole 20s and not know what anything is as far as martial arts. I did everything, every sport you can think of that was fun. I did motocross and snowboarding and, you know, mountain biking, and I loved it. I was a raft guide for years, and so I was up for adventure. I never really looked at the grappling sports or fighting. Then I broke my collarbone. Sat on the couch for a month or two and watched the top 10 UFC knockouts. Yeah, so that got me hooked. Like, what is that? My friend did judo. He did judo, and he watched the UFC as well. And I said, what is that? What is he doing? You know, and I'm watching UFC 1, 2, 3, you know, the early stuff too. So, I mean, I got hooked. I got interested fast. My friend did judo. I did judo. Always called judo my first love, but jiu-jitsu is my true love. And I always knew that I like the ground stuff in judo. And I think, you know, one day I'm gonna make the switch. But I kind of had to see the judo part out a little bit and really see what I can do. And I ended up training with a really good team out on the East Coast. Jason Morris, judo center out there. I mean, really, really good jiu-jitsu. I don't think I feel like I knew jiu-jitsu, or I would be comfortable talking about judo techniques until I trained there. And I just skimmed the surface, you know. So that was a great experience. Finally had a knee injury, and I said, you know what, I think it's enough judo for me. And I made the switch, and I moved to Arizona to train with Gustavo.
Okay, you covered a lot of stuff there, so I want to back up for one moment. You said you were watching the early UFCs, and that got you into judo.
Yeah.
When a lot of people watch MMA, they want to get into striking arts. Why did your attention go towards the grappling?
I honestly think because the friend that I spoke to about did judo.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that was the influence. He said, hey, there's a judo club. I was up in Chico, California, and I went and I met them and I joined them, and I got the bug. We trained about twice a week, maybe for an hour, so it wasn't too intense. And I said, okay, and I finally started moving around. I moved to the Bay Area, and you know, I came down to Arizona, trained. I went to Illinois. I went to the East Coast. I was, you know, kind of everywhere, just trying to soak up the knowledge, you know, where I could. And
did you move to the East Coast just to train judo?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, a flexible life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a full-time job. I'm a software developer, but that full-time job, I work from home. Mm-hmm. So my employers are just awesome with that. I'm like, yeah, I'm in a different time zone for a week, but I'll make the meetings. I'll get my work done. So it really, really works out that I can do both.
And that's awesome. You had that flexibility
Yes.
to go wherever you wanted to.
You have to, yeah.
The judo is an awesome art, one that I respect a lot and one that I'd like to study more. But a lot of people are afraid of what many would consider the higher risk of injury in judo. Is that what you found also?
Yes. I think that's why I made the switch. And, I mean, for sure I can trust myself in jiu-jitsu, and I've had worse injuries in jiu-jitsu, honestly. You know, maybe competed at the higher levels a little longer, or just time, or maybe the accumulation of both sports. You know, I've ended up with some pretty, you know, serious injuries, but that was a thing. I mean, twisting with my knees on the mat. I mean, I really, really tried. I saw a few of the injuries through because I knew I needed that exposure to judo. And I could have stopped doing judo, you know, before I went out and trained, you know, with Jason Morris, but I knew I needed that. I needed to take that into my jiu-jitsu, and that was going to kind of make the difference in some places. So maybe set me back a few years in jiu-jitsu, but in the end, I think it's going to be the right move. I'm banking on it. I was banking on it then. I'm still banking on it.
So if you see an up-and-coming student who wants to be a good, well-rounded grappler, and he or she says, you know, I'm thinking of pursuing some judo, what would you tell that person?
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I like that to do some judo classes so you know what the throws are. You know, a forward throw, a backward throw. BJJ Scout did a really good breakdown on Ronda Rousey. Yeah, she has a million throws for sure, but kind of the 4 throws, the 4 directions that she goes. Like, if you have those 4 directions with your judo throws, and you kind of understand what you're looking for, and you know, then you can start figuring out how to work them into your stand-up, and making yourself do some stand-up in practice too, you know. So I do think it's beneficial. Do you need to go spend years doing judo? Like, maybe, you know, maybe if you want to have a leg up on all your opponents on the stand-up, but doing some judo and then taking that knowledge and figuring out how to get those throws into jiu-jitsu, I do think it's beneficial.
Yeah, because when you look at the whole curriculum of judo, a lot of it just won't work in competition jiu-jitsu because of the rule set. You know, in judo you have to stay upright, in jiu-jitsu you can hunch over, the rules of how you can grip. So do you think it's too much work trying to figure out what adapts to jiu-jitsu, or should you just go to a guy like Gustavo Dantas who's already done the math and figured out what works? Both. Because so I spent, if you asked me last year, I'd have been like, man, judo is just a big waste of time. I can't use anything. I just get my back taken and, you know, all this stuff. So, I mean, that's hopefully today's technique. I kind of want to get into showing the moments that the throws are there, you know, so their hips are back. It wouldn't happen in judo. You know, yeah, they're pulling on your gi. I mean, there's a penalty that is just that, you know, you're just, you know, dragging the gi down. So you need to attack. But so hopefully today I can kind of show and maybe help some people figure out those openings. Because if you're trying to force throws in jiu-jitsu where they not are, you're going to end up in a lot of trouble. Right. Yeah. So a crude generalization is that judo guys are good on their feet, not good on the ground, and jiu-jitsu guys are not good on their feet, but are good on the ground. Do you agree with that, or is that too much of an oversimplification?
A little bit. I mean, Travis Stevens is going to break the mold on all grounds, but yeah, I mean, if you're in jiu-jitsu and you're facing a judo guy, you should be worried. You should have your hips back and be looking to pull. And you know, the most successful judo people that come into jiu-jitsu that I see, most aren't. Because they just want to do their judo, and vice versa. So I'm in a judo class, a jiu-jitsu guy comes in or girl comes in, and they're just trying to drag them to the ground and get a submission. And they're not. I just think you need to walk in the door. I know no martial arts. Teach me. You know, that's going to be your best bet for learning it. And yes, I mean that's correct. The guy's going to be more comfortable if he has judo, and more comfortable if they have jiu-jitsu. And that's probably where they're going to tend to want to go. But if you want to learn the other, just forget your other sport. Right. Yeah.
That's great advice. One last question about judo before we go back to jiu-jitsu. Foot sweeps are one of the most beautiful judo techniques, in my opinion. Yes. Also ones that require perfect timing. Yeah. How have you, being a second-degree black belt in judo, how have you found foot sweeps? Are they still an option for you in jiu-jitsu, or are they tough to pull off?
Yeah, well, they're tough, but you have to have them because they're going to set up everything. So, I don't have that technique for today, but as far as timing, grip and sweep. Like, I mean, And this I mean, I have the foot sweep from Judo, but the timing piece from Gustavo. So, yeah, but you have to be throwing that out, because one, if you want to stand, it's a nice way not to be stalling. And then two, it's timing, and that's going to make them step off that. So, yeah, and it works. It does work. You're gonna find every once in a while, like, wow, there they are on the ground, you know. So it's you have to have that in your repertoire.
So do you practice any judo now, or did you just close that door?
Judo for jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you're doing full-time jiu-jitsu now. Did you find any difficulties switching the culture? You know, Brazilian culture and Japanese American judo culture, they're pretty different in judo and wrestling for that matter. There's lots of repetitions and a little more of a militaristic atmosphere, whereas in the Brazilian side is a lot more laid back. And in jiu-jitsu, was that a difficult transition for you?
Maybe because while I was doing judo, I had a little bit of jiu-jitsu exposure, so maybe I was a little bit used to it. And with judo, I trained a lot of places, so some were strict. Some you would not call the coach sensei. You'd be like, I'm coached, that's enough. So there was, you would still bow in, but we bow in jiu-jitsu. So, it was also different everywhere that I don't feel like it was a hard transition for me, but it's definitely different, and the people are very different. I mean, judo's an Olympic sport. These are young Olympic athletes. Like, think of gymnastics or swim. This is the universe right here, and these kids, they're going to go to the Olympics, and it's awesome. It's awesome to see the focus and the dedication and all that. And we want to win our worlds, and we have all the things that we're doing, but the atmosphere is different. Maybe it's Brazilian. I don't know.
Right.